I want you to act as if the house was on fire.
Would you set your house on fire? Or would you purposely mess up things in your home? Would you destroy your house? I don't think so. That's basically what we're doing to our planet. Our entire planet is facing a crisis, and the long-term effects are absolutely catastrophic. The Earth is changing in many horrible ways, and honestly, it's getting to a critical level where there may be no return. The planet and our species is witnessing our climate change on a massive scale. It doesn't care what political party you are, what religion you are, or how much money you have. It has been happening for years, and we're watching a critical stage where we may not be able to go back.
So Obama's talking about all of this with the global warming and that, and a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay?
And that's why we are fucked. The fact is, 97 to 99% of scientists agree that our climate is changing, and they believe that our actions as a species is making the problem even worse and making the rate at which it happens even faster. We are so desperate to not be wrong that we are willing to suffer and just live with the consequences. I am blown away by the sheer level of ignorance and willing to blindly not believe the evidence. Let me put this into simple terms. You're about to jump out of an airplane. You have two parachutes. One of the chutes says that there's a 97 to 99% chance it will open and you will land on the ground safely. The other parachute says you only have a 1 to 3% chance that it will open. Which one do you grab? If you grabbed chute 2, then I am glad, because honestly, we need to weed your gene out of the species.
Even if somebody came in campaigning on denying climate science, reality has a way of, hitting you in the nose if you're not paying attention. And I think that the public is starting to realize the science.
Let me give you some facts, and let me reiterate that a fact is a true statement. It doesn't care what you believe. It is a fact that our planet has gone through 7 climate cycles since it came to be. This is based on geological evidence, among other things. NASA states that we have seen ice age, glacial retreats, heat waves, and so on. So climate change happens naturally. It could be the result of solar radiation, tiny changes in our orbit, massive volcanic eruptions, and so on. So climate change in our history is a fact. Let me break it down to you very simply. CO2 is bad. If you don't believe that, put your mouth in your car's muffler and tell me how you feel afterward. I am part joking and part serious. Everyone agrees and knows CO2 in excess is harmful. According to NASA, the heat-trapping nature of carbon dioxide and other gases was demonstrated in the mid-19th century. Their ability in effect to transfer infrared energy through the atmosphere and the scientific basis of many instruments flown by NASA. There is no question that increased levels of greenhouse gases must cause the Earth to warm in response. There are natural events that produce CO2. Every year, volcanoes around the world produce approximately 200 million tons of carbon into the atmosphere. So that can have an effect on the climate, obviously. Some people have used this fact to distort other facts. Politicians and deniers have often said that volcanoes are worse than cars, and it's not our fault if climate change happens and we have nothing to do with it. Well, this ignores the fact that car emissions produce 24 billion tons of carbon every single year. That number is expected to increase as our population increases and more nations develop. Scientists say we have at least 11 years to switch things around. 11 years, that's not a long amount of time, but we still have a little bit of a chance to do it. What concerns you the most about climate change? What concerns you the most about climate change? What is your main concern about climate change?
I think the most concerning thing about climate change is probably the fact that, I think it's in the hands of bigger companies and millionaires and stuff like that, because they have the power to do a lot in terms of taking preventative actions, but they practically do nothing, if anything, ever. Obviously, all of us regular people have a part in that, but I think that until companies stop making start making more ways for people to use less waste and less plastic in their products and stuff like that, I think we don't really stand much of a chance until that happens.
What concerns me the most about climate change? Probably my biggest concern is the fact that it's actually happening, but you have so many ignorant people, especially people in power, people with money, politicians who just want to keep dumbing down the masses and convincing them that it's not a real thing when it is. I think one of the biggest concerns too is the fact that, anybody with kind of common sense, I think, can see that it is happening, and the fact that we don't actually make changes as countries and worlds, nations, things like that, then it's going to be pretty bad to the point that we're not going to be able to fix it. In fact, I think we're already at the point that we cannot fix it. We're to the point now that maybe we can figure a way to mitigate it or at least live with it afterwards.
My main concern would probably be that enough people aren't buying into the fact that it's happening. Without people making the change, nothing will really be done.
Why do you think some people still don't believe in climate change? Why do you think so many people don't believe in climate change? Why do you think some people still don't believe in it?
I think that our generation is so used to consuming a bunch of different types of media all the time at a pretty frequent and constant level. So whenever you hear a bunch of different things all at once, you're just constantly accepting new facts. And I don't think that a lot of people go further to investigate other than what they've heard. I think it's more of a thing that our generation needs to be more conscious of the media that they consume and question, what they're receiving and how that could be possible and why that is. Because I think that if they knew, how serious climate change is and the effects that it could have, that they probably wouldn't feel how they feel. So that's probably why.
Because people are stupid. No, I keep that in there. No, I'm kind of being serious here. Because people do not want to educate themselves. Because people, no matter what, it is much easier to just stick to whatever your personal beliefs are. Because if you believe that climate change was an actual thing, then that means you have to take responsibility for your own actions, which means you have to actually change as an individual, as a society, as a country. And most people don't want to do that. They don't want to get out of their comfort zones. Plus, our public school system or education system just sucks beyond words. So you have people who can't even bother to research. They pick and choose what they want to believe in, and then they just follow those particular bits of information. So if you don't want to believe in climate change, you're probably going to go on Fox News all day long because they don't believe in it. You're going to gravitate towards people or pseudoscientists who don't believe in it because it makes you feel better about yourself, as opposed to picking up some research, actually reading, actually finding out what's happening around the world. Because then that's going to cause you to change your own belief system, and people can't handle that.
Probably just because it's a hard concept to wrap your mind around, because when people think climate change, a lot of people are like, oh, well, my climate isn't changing, or they see the severe snowstorms and say, oh, well, clearly we're not getting too hot, global warming isn't real then, because they see these weather patterns as oh, well, nothing's going wrong, but really it's because of global warming we've been thrown into these extreme cycles, and what people don't get is that it's really throwing off everything else. Yeah.
How can we prevent climate change from getting worse? What are some ways we can prevent climate change from getting even worse? What do you think we can do to prevent it from getting even worse?
So I think that if our generation tries to sort of adopt certain habits so that we are able to live off of less, or sort of work with what we have more, would probably be better. For example, if people taking more public transportation and eating less meat, you don't have to become vegetarian or vegan completely, but just less meat in general would eliminate the need for that. And then just people starting to live more of a waste-free lifestyle. If we as a culture kind of adopt habits like that, and I feel like companies will try to meet us halfway and make an effort to accommodate those needs, which would kind of put us at give us that extra push that we're hoping for. But it's ultimately up to the bigger companies and stuff like that to try to use less plastic and use less resources in order to make their products, because we're not going to just not use them because we need them to survive, essentially, but it would be nice if they weren't so harmful.
I don't know if we can at this point. I think at this point, like, we've kind of gone so far off the deep end. I really believe like our only chance now is just to make it manageable. And the thing is, like, developed nations like the U.S., developing nations like China, the United Kingdom, things like that. In the long run, they'll be okay. They'll have to make some changes, but they're going to be okay. But it's the underdeveloped countries in the world that are going to suffer the most from this. And I don't know if there's anything we can do to protect those people. And most of those people are suffering because of developed nations and our carbon emissions. So, I mean, we're directly responsible for what's going to happen to a lot of these people.
One of the bigger things would be in probably investing in more sources of renewable energy. That's definitely a growing field. And especially like with all the technological advances it's seen even in recent years, and with everything that there is now to offer, I think the biggest push is still that there's not a lot of push for it. There's not a lot being done that says we need to make the change to it. It's just kind of like it would be nice if we made the change to it. So I think if we had a bigger push in using more forms of renewable energy, that would definitely be a start.
Without change, the future of our planet is absolutely doomed. As of now, I don't think we can change. I think in the future we're going to have to learn to deal with what we've made. But if we can change right now, it will not be as severe as it would be if we continue to do the things that we're doing to the planet. We as humans need to find a way to coexist with nature, coexist with our animals, plants, and insects. We need to find a way to reduce our waste. We need to find a way to reduce our carbon footprint. But because we as a species like to live so ignorant and be very stubborn and thinking that we're gonna be fine. And maybe we'll be fine. But at the current rate that we're going, it's not looking like we're gonna be fine. 11 years is not a long time to change. 11 years is not long at all. We are merely a blink of an eye to the planet. The planet will live. The planet will recover eventually. We will die off as a species. The most important thing is we need to change. And without change, our future is doomed.
You cannot ignore the scientists, or the science, or the millions of school striking children who are school striking for the right to a future. I beg you, please do not fail on this.